There was a time when Sonic was much more than speed. He was a knight, a hero, a legend. Sega Storybook games were wild. So why did they vanish? It's time we bring them back. Sega began the Storybook games back in 2007 with Sonic and the Secret Rings. Secret Rings would be the first of 2 Storybook games released exclusively for the Wii. Our story here follows Sonic being summoned into the world of the Arabian Nights by Shara, the genie of the ring. She warns him of Eraser Jin, a dark deity consuming the book's world and threatening to break Sonic's reality. Eraser Jin curses Sonic with a burning arrow that will extinguish his life until he collects the 7 powerful world rings. Throughout his adventure, Sonic learns that the ring is actually the embodiment of things like rage, sadness, and hate. Shara eventually betrays Sonic because it's revealed that the two, Shara and Eraser, actually had a relationship before and she wants to be with him again. This betrayal actually ends up leaving her to die in Sonic's arms. Now with Eraser Jin possessing the World Ring, he's able to transform into... Using the ring Sonic obtained, he also gets a transformation called Dark Spine Sonic and eventually defeats Eraser Jin. The story ends with Sonic making 3 wishes, with his last wish being
a mountain of handkerchiefs.
This would conclude the first Sonic Storybook game. In the year 2009, we had the game Sonic and the Black Knight for the Nintendo Wii. The game starts off with Merlina summoning Sonic into the world of Camelot. Merlina needs Sonic's help to take down the evil King Arthur. Sonic agrees to help out Merlina as he begins to wield the talking sword Caliburn to defeat King Arthur. But before he can do that, he needs to take out all of the Knights of the Round Table, like Lancelot, Gawain, and Percival. After beating these knights, Sonic gains all of their respect and learns along the way that King Arthur actually was never real and an illusion created by Merlina's grandfather. Merlina then reveals herself as the main antagonist as she becomes the Dark Queen. In order to defeat her, Sonic becomes Excalibur Sonic and then eventually beats her. Then we have this scene.
Every world has its end. I know that's kinda sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
I think it's safe to say that this game probably gave us the best characterization of Sonic that we've ever seen. Having said that, these games sound pretty fantastic, don't they? However, I think there was one major flaw. They're games. The gameplay in both of these was lacking. Nowadays, you might hear a lot of people say that Black Knight is a really fantastic game in all aspects, including the gameplay, but back then, that was not a common thought. These games received mixed reviews across the board because the gameplay was repetitive, not as much fun as it could have been, and also just really clunky. However, despite this, Secret Rings would actually sell around 3 million copies, and Black Knight would actually get less than half of that, being at 1.2 million. That said, I think one of the biggest reasons why we don't see these games anymore, outside of the reasons I just described earlier, is we got a whole rebrand for Sonic in 2010. We got new voice actors, new writers, new models, and just a whole new direction for the series that wouldn't change until, well, recently. These Storybook games are one of the reasons why people say Sonic the Hedgehog has aura in the first place, but then you look at the era of Sonic Colors and Lost World and Forces, and even Generations, and you say, maybe Sonic doesn't have as much aura as we once thought he did. These games had such immense visual flair, and now that they're gone, it just feels like there's a void missing in the Sonic spin-off department. A lot of people will say that Sonic Riders is the definitive way that Sonic should be doing racing games, because it feels different, unique, and it feels like Sonic. The Sonic Riders games were able to do something that the other racing games couldn't, and that was to make Sonic feel like Sonic. In my opinion, Sonic Riders and the Storybook games are in a similar position because even though they're spin-off games, they feel very much like Sonic even without being a mainline title. The Storybook games operated as another avenue for Sonic to just be cool. And I think Sega knew this because at the time on Facebook they put up a poll asking fans if they could choose the next Sonic Storybook game, which would it be? And fans were given a list of genres like film noir, Greek myths, horror, sci-fi, and western. Greek myths was the one that won this poll, but we never actually saw the fruits of it. Which is a massive shame, because could you imagine Sonic vs. Zeus or something along those lines? That would just go insane. So of course, with this video, I had to come up with an idea for a pitch for the next Sonic Storybook title if I were to make it. I couldn't just tell you that I want these games back without posing any possible ideas, could I? Well, maybe I could, but that would have been boring. Anyway, my pitch is vampires. Sonic is fighting Dracula. So the first half of the game, Sonic is teleported into Transylvania, where he saves a civilian from being bit by a vampire. Sonic defeats the vampire and is told by the civilian that Transylvania is plagued with vampires and that only someone like him could save them all due to his fearless and unwavering spirit. Sonic obliges and makes it his mission to defeat them all. The civilian travels with Sonic throughout the story, think like Caliburn or Shara, and eventually Sonic himself is bitten by a vampire, with the only promise of a cure being to take down the leader of all the vampires, Dracula. Now before we go any further, let's give some backstory into Dracula. Of course, I made all this up. Dracula was once a kind ruler of Transylvania, but became incredibly ill. He fled the kingdom in search of a cure, which led him to drink an urn of vampire venom. He would eventually return to the kingdom with a new goal, to turn everyone in the world into vampires, because he believes that humanity is an inferior species. He believes that by turning everyone into vampires, he's doing them all a favor. The game will have you play as Sonic utilizing Sonic's new vampire mode, which after filling up a gauge will allow him to do things like fly, become invisible, crawl up walls, or even self-heal. In the final battle of the game, Sonic fights and defeats Dracula by activating a new final vampire form, donning incredibly sharp fangs, dark fur, and a long black and red cape. Every Storybook game needs a new form. This was just a rite of passage. Sonic is able to save Transylvania from all the vampires, but he can't actually turn himself back to normal. Dracula laughs as his body begins to fade away, saying that he only completed step 1 of the cure. A sacrifice is necessary. The civilian that Sonic saves at the beginning of the story that's been traveling with him throughout the adventure actually returns the favor and forcefully sacrifices himself to save Sonic. He turns to ash, thanking Sonic for saving everyone. And that's basically the end of my story here. As for the art style, as you notice when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog Storybook games, there is a certain stylistic approach that they have with them that makes them feel kind of lived in, and that you're actually experiencing the story through the realm of a book. My approach with this pitch would be a little bit different, as it would actually be like gothic paintings and murals using a lot of dark reds and grays and blacks, and even dark blues in there too, to make it feel like it was actually like a creepy vampire painting, but also still kind of giving it that Sonic feel, if you know what I mean. It is important that this game doesn't lean too far into the realm of horror, because at the end of the day, it is a Sonic the Hedgehog game, so let's not get too crazy over here. But having said that, what do you think? Do you want the Sonic Storybook series to come back? Do you like my pitch? Do you have a pitch? Let me know in the comment section down below all of your thoughts and everything else you might have to say. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?